Wasteland 3 is a callback to things I wish I had today.
I'm just trying to do it like
Fallout original style dialogue trees. Hey, decisions that permanently alter the world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
A complex RPG system of attributes, skills, and perks that affect each other, affect your character, affect all the equipment you wear, and you select them as you go along. Okay. This is looking a little promising, but did you do it right? And a lovingly reimagining of the old with the new. A new action point turn-based RPG system. Oh wait, that's not new. We've had that since Fallout 1 and 2, except this is much more refined and faster. But it's also been upgraded and functions much more like XCOM 2 with no mods. That's a good thing. It's fast, it's got speed, intense moments, a rhythm and a flow to it. Inventory management that would give any warehouse worker both a headache and reassurance they still have a job. And requirements for ammo, armor, guns, considerations of attributes and skills and how they affect what you can and cannot equip, finite resources that you're always struggling to get more of, and generally a good experience. Mixed and distilled all of that down with a few dozen game-breaking Bethesda level Morrowind straight out of Todd Howard's darkest Nightmare Avenue bugs! Yeah, I said all of that. We're going to get into it now. Now, first off, combat in Wasteland 3, which is the first thing you're introduced to, is fluid. I do have one major complaint and a couple of minor ones. First off, the major complaint is that there's no rolling initiative system. One side goes, then the other side goes. If you're playing multiplayer, one of you goes, the enemy goes, the other one of you goes. Or sometimes it's you and your partner and then the enemies. Or sometimes it's the enemies, then you and your partner. Not perfectly built. But it works. And it's fluid and it is robust and simple enough that you can grasp it. But there's a bunch of subtleties going on like cover and smoke and debris. All terrain you're on, complex height differences. There's a bunch of little subtleties going on there that truly make it a very complex, must consider every move and how I am moving type of deal. I was playing on the Ranger difficulty, not the Supreme Jerk, the Ranger difficulty, which is hard mode. The super hard is Supreme Jerk. And I was still finding that every single combat I had to think it through before I did it. The other complaint I have with combat is you get animal companions, but you can't control them. You get turrets, but you can't control them. You get other types of deployables, but you have no control over their actions. And I'm kind of like, if it was my dog and I had trained it, shouldn't I be able to tell it when to sick someone and when to come back? Shouldn't I be able to, tell it that kind of thing? And I, have this really cool perk, these really cool perks for Animal Whisper that clearly indicate I trained this animal, and I can't implement that training. Frustrating. Especially frustrating when you get really unique, really well-written animals like Polly, who is a sentient motherfucking parrot, who is priceless, and also has a mouth that even I think needs to be toned down just a little bit. And you've heard my mouth. And yet, I have no control over this character, and they die because I can't tell them to not stay in melee combat with the enemy melee specialist who turns around and does a thunder strike and turns Polly into country fried parrot. The story of Wasteland 3 straight up continues Wasteland 1 and 2 with canon endings, and none of this you have to pick what you did and this is how it changed the world. No. All that's gone. The defect with that sort of games is you always look at the monumental task of having to play the first two games in order to get the data for the newest game, whereas this goes, no, we're just going to say this is the canon, this is what happened. I don't care about your Wasteland 3 your Wasteland 2 or Wasteland 1 playthrough. This is what's supposed. This is what happened. Now you figure out what happens in Wasteland 3. Bye. It has the original workers of Fallout, who worked on the Fallout Bible, taking this into their hands, and they are some of the original creators of the first Wasteland, and trying to make an experience that is worth playing. Despite the extremely frustrating bugs I hope they fix, which they say they're working on. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Characters are brought to life by incredibly well done voice acting. There are parts of Fallout 4 and parts of Fallout 76's Wastelanders that feel phoned in. No, every single last character was properly voice acted, is properly taken into account, is given direction to the voice actor to make sure they know how to do the character just right. And it shows through the entire game. There is no amount of phoning it in or just, throwing it down and saying, here's my voice lines, and somebody walking out. That doesn't happen. And it brings it all to life. Some of the NPCs are incredibly memorable, and your NPC companions who you don't create also have entire voice line things, such as Scotchmo, whose literal character class is Hobo. Hobo! His literal character class is Hobo. Mine's Toaster Repair Specialist. Your decisions are remembered throughout the world by both an intricate reputation system and a system of, well, you decided to do this, so this person reacts this way and now gives you this quest. Or you decided to do that, and now this person does that back at you. Your decisions also come up, and unlike the previous game where it was you had to go, here's 2 quests, go to one or the other. And you can't go to the other. Instead, what they do for that type of situation is they give you distress calls. And you have to pick which one you're going to respond to, because by the time you would respond to the other one, you can't. It's already over, and it makes sense that that your Team November only has time to do so much. And your decisions drastically affect the world. The decision of whether or not to rescue the Alpaco, or the Alpaco convoy, or the Hoon homestead is the first one of these to come up, and it's very well done. And both of them have very intricate stories, and if you go after the Alpaco convoy, it's wonderful. The Patriarch guys have power armor. I hope if you're fighting the Patriarch, you're prepared to deal with that. And because you went after the Alpaca one, the guy who was murdering the Hoons has a specific hard-on to kill you, and he's coming.
Then you should talk to the machine intelligence tower.
And you can change out party members at any time. Every single person in the base can become a party member.
You could consider them.
Or you can throw them out of your base if you absolutely hate them. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention everyone is killable? Don't like the Patriarch? Kill him. I even tested this on children. They die. You get a massive reputation hit for killing underage people or killing a person's pets, but yeah, everything dies. You also get rewarded. Every single skill check is worth XP. Every single time you kill something, it's worth XP and loot. And it's rewarding to do that. Like, if I want to go murder a whole town, shoot the place up. Go ahead. You're going to deal with the consequences, but knock yourself out. And some of your NPC allies might refuse, but you can find ones who won't. The game doesn't try to make you feel bad for doing bad decisions either. People call you monsters, and people react appropriately to all of your decisions and everything that you've made a judgment call on. But there are other people who will give you pats on the back and encouragement for doing those very things. It turns out that there's a quest line that you can open up to join the Dorseys and just go about on the deluge of blood. I was surprised when I mined the code to find that. I don't know how to get it to turn on, but I at least mined the code to find out that's a thing. And there are pre-planned radio transmission quests that feel, when you get to certain areas of the map or when you get to certain levels, that feel organic and Like, you would think this was something that was procedurally generated until you get there and you realize, no, someone handcrafted every single quest. There are over 200 of missions in this game, and all of them hand done by a person. No procedural generation, no lack of voice lines, no other no major, like, we're just gonna let the computer do it type of deal. Everything is done by a person. The way the different groups fight you is not only dictated by their equipment, but it's also dictated by their AI. The Dorseys will stand back and let their with their ranged guys, and let their melee and animals rush you, while the party clown, I forget their name. They're basically clowns from Mexico, hopped up on PCP with flamethrowers. They all rush you universally, with no seeming worth of self-preservation to it. Whereas the marshals will, or the gangsters will take cover and try to flank you, and have a lot of self-preservation about them and their tactics, and it's programmed into the game, so there's different tactical levels for what the AI is supposed to do to counter you, the player. So every fight feels different and unique. Every time you run into a different type of enemy, you have to deal with a different set of actions, and it forces you out of a comfort zone. It's like playing XCOM 2 for the first time, and every single mission you run into a new alien that forces you back out of your comfort zone that you just had established. And it's glorious that someone poured that much love and care into this game. Now, I did say there was some bad here. Wasteland 3 has released with bugs. Certain areas are flat out unplayable due to bugs. Union Station, which was shown off at E3 with Fish Lips. His cutscene's there, everything's there, it's just, it's broken. Horrifically broken. You can't complete that fight type of broken. Multiplayer feature is really nice and kind of expected, but I was expecting Divinity 2 Original Sin, and I got Fallout 76 1 year after release level bugs. Every time the radio cuts on, and every time you do a map transition, you might break your game. And you have to reload to your last save before the break, as these breaks also corrupt future saves. So if you save the game and then just reload, no, you still have the bug. You have to go back to the last time you saved before the bug occurred. Which, in some cases, might not even be the save it appears to be. The bug might already be in progress from that save, and you might have to load back to the save before that. In some cases, Doodle and I losing as much as an hour of time, because we were frequently saving. Like, every map transition was a save, and we were still having... There was one time where I just said, okay, look, Doodle, I'm going to invite you back in a minute, and I had to go and do everything in single player that was causing the break, and then invite Doodle back afterwards. Autosave, even in single player mode, breaks the game. Hope you remember to press F5 for quick saves, or you train yourself to manually do one with a unique and snazzy title that you can immediately tell what's going on. By the way, you have 60 characters for a unique and snazzy title. That was generous of them. In order to create a save after every major conversation and every map transition and every time you complete a quest. To say I'm not disappointed by these bugs would be an understatement. The multiplayer idea is wonderful. I was really, really banking on it being as smooth as Divinity 2 Original Sin, and it's just not. And despite the bugs, the game is something I can't really put down. The bugs are frustrating, and I have to walk, and I have to take a walk and go get some tea and breathe a minute. But the bugs hopefully will be fixed. In the meantime, just keep looking at the current, bug reports. By the way, the devs have been super responsive, and this is something I have just found great joy in how much the devs have been willing to go, hey, we'll add it to the list. Can you send us video footage? And I send them video footage, and they're like, sweet, we will do our best to figure out how this happened. And I'm looking at the possibilities of playing through Wasteland 3 again with different characters and with a different mindset to get different results and different outcomes. But despite the bugs and everything else, I mean, it's just an epic game. It's an epic adventure. It's the type of epic adventure you wanted for Fallout 4 and didn't get. In 10 hours, and after 3 dozen quests, I've recruited the staff for my HQ. None of it was busy work. None of it was boring. All of it was interesting. All of it was different. And every single experience is a memorable one. Everything from my experience to getting into the bazaar, to recruit the cook I wanted, to, hey, I need to figure out what to do with these refugees. And refugees came up like 5 times, but they were all 5 different scenarios with different characters, with different wants and desires, and with different possible outcomes. And that's just the first 10 hours. Getting to the Patriarch's kids, every single one of the Patriarch's kids feels like its own self-contained epic journey. Denver, I spent 14 hours in. I got to Aspen and was like, I've been playing this game for 50 hours. And I'm only on the level 15 quest. And I've just unlocked a level 24 quest. And I'm slowing down leveling. Fuck, this is a lot. And it makes you sit there and go into the depths of hell itself and debate the philosophy of the human condition and the philosophy of what government should and should not be in an era where you're having to reform governments from the nuclear winter's ashes. Is slavery okay? If it benefits everyone. Should the state own stuff? Should you let people have ownership? What does the keys to power look like? Should you be a dictator? Is dictator necessary to get to democracy? How do you deal with the rights of succession in a post-apocalyptic wasteland when a powerful figure is clearly unwell? Because at the very beginning of the game, you get like a first aid check, and the Patriarch gets pissed at you for calling out the fact that his hand is in here. During the cutscene, his hand is just twitching every once in a while, and you're like... And it's like a zoomed-in conversation. It's not a true cutscene. It zooms back out right afterwards. There's no, like, fade or anything like that. It just zooms out, and you're just like, oh, okay, so this is actually in the game engine. And then it gets your mind thinking that every conversation, that's actually what's going on. And this is something I have to really, really get into. Is after having played through gotten to the Monster Army of the Bazaar, listen to a disco version of Monster Munch, or the Monster Mash, the Psycho Dentist, the assholes that are the 100 Families, the entire Dorsey subplot that chases you through most of the game, Irv and his cloning machine. All of these things are fascinating. They draw wonder. They make the game alive. There's a giant Reagan robot that shoots death lasers from its eyes. That's controlled by an AI modeled off Ronald Reagan, complete with Raptor picture and him with an assault rifle. I'm sorry for headphone users right now, but I just had to say that out loud. Every single private at the Ranger HQ can be a party member. You can recruit refugees. You can recruit people from the world. Some people you can imprison later. That's a thing. The level of detail makes every NPC on the side of the road, to the merchants, to the ones in the cutscenes, feel alive. And the voice acting is glorious. You have subquests to fix a random merchant's microwave. A merchant wants ramen. You walk up to a merchant and they're like, can you help me fix this gun? Or another merchant's like, I need parts to build a railroad spike minigun. That's a thing? That's a thing. I want it. And it just never gets old, and the world feels alive. The world feels living and breathing. And there are parts of it that genuinely will go on without you. And the game emphasizes that. If you don't act, the world will go on and just be like, I did my thing and you weren't involved, now you have to deal with me. I am truly impressed by the level of facial animation done on the animated conversations, the true range of emotion that looks like it belongs to a Pixar movie team, but is set by a small group of game devs. All the subtle movements, the characters, the hand gestures, the lip syncing, the eye twitches, the hair, the body language, all of it is nailed to a T.
What do you want to talk to me about?
That you could think that Liberty, the crazy bitch, is a real person.
I'm not admitting.
Plus, every character looks and feels unique. And it causes you to really truly think that when you're still in the zoomed out isometric view, that those characters
You got a deal.
are doing those same animations for their conversations.
I'll tell my crew to let you in the back.
Despite the bugs, despite the frustration with those bugs, anything outside of the bugs was not frustrating. It was hard. It was a challenge. It was something that required me to rise to it, and it creates a masterpiece of a game.
You're right.
Wasteland 1 was a masterpiece. Wasteland 2 was a transition. Wasteland 3, you're back to a masterpiece.
Daisy would have been busting down my doors within the hour.
There's no other word for it. And it is a glory of a role-playing game, of a return to an era that people like Obsidian Entertainment and was trying to capture with Pillars of Eternity and Tyranny, and just fell short. And suddenly Wasteland 3 comes along and goes, no, I got this. And I'm back to where I'm like, I could play this isometric RPG for years, and I will be happy. Thank you, devs. Fix the bugs. Sincerely, Fiaura.
Come on, couple. Show them how we do it in Vegas.